everyone, and welcome back to Wild Woman Podcast. I'm really, really excited about the episode today. I have a beautiful guest, as I always do, but this is a beautiful guest called Lisa Wetsel, and she's from the United States of America. And I feel very privileged. We were chatting there for a few moments, and this happens all the time. You nearly say, we should be recording. Because such wisdom coming through, it's just such a joy and such a privilege to be doing this podcast. And we both said at the very beginning that we had never intended to start a podcast, but that's what happens when you open yourself to the higher wisdom that's available to you, which I'm in the process of learning to trust. So I'm very grateful to Lisa today. And I just want to give you a little bit of background to her before we get into the interview. So Lisa, really her journey has been into the Akashic Records, I suppose. That is the type of work that she specializes in, and will explain all of that, she will, to us. And it commenced in 1996. And it was fueled by a journey that she was on, but it was through the healing art of massage therapy that her path started to unfold. And now she has the unique ability for the last 20 years to channel direct insights from the masters. And what I love as well, she's over 2 decades of experience, as I says, but she's been a trusted channel for the timeless truths that are embedded in the records. And she has an unwavering intention throughout her journey that has remained constant to live authentically from the heart, to uphold the highest standards of integrity and embody the eternal pursuit of truth. And what is really beautiful, it's about empowering individuals on their own transformative journeys. And I'm always with a heart-centered approach. And I always feel so grateful to be in the presence of someone who's dedicating their life to such work, because I just really feel this. We're all in this together, and we all have our own unique gifts. And whatever way you can show up sharing your gifts is the way you're meant to, because this is how we uplift each other and humanity. So after that little, I can't help but say it because I always feel inspired. It's like, I think it's Lisa who's actually bringing this information through me. So welcome, Lisa. I'm so grateful that you're here today.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here, and I appreciate you asking me to be a part of this. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And it was inspired really by Lisa has a beautiful podcast herself on YouTube, and I'm going to share all the links at the end. And she's done some amazing interviews. So it's just was a beautiful journey. She showed up on my YouTube feed, and I just, have gone on that journey with her. So I encourage anyone, if you're on this journey, this search, there's something waking up in you, has woken up in you, is waking up in you, is about to wake up in you. This is a channel that will really help you on your own path so that you don't feel alone. So I just wanted to ask you, Lisa, I suppose the very first question is what are the Akashic Records? And I'm sure you've had this question asked many times.
Yeah, and it's interesting because going to tell you just a very basic human point of view. The Akashic Records is really a field of energy, and what the way that I always see it is that it's ever penetrating us. It's like I always see it like kind of like a fog that's around every single one of us. It's like these little bitty energy particles that are around every one of us. And it records everything that we think, experiences, everything that has to do with the soul's experience from the beginning of time. The records have been always been in place since the beginning of time. And from it starts recording our soul from the beginning of our soul's existence. So each one of us has a record, and that includes every soul that not just the human version. Every soul in whatever form it's in, it's recording that information. And so the way that I use the Akashic Records is that I have the ability to tap into the field, and the Akashic field has guides and a support system. And they assist me when I tap into, like when I'm doing a session for somebody, I'll tap into like your record, Celine, and then your guides will take me to your history. And it's basically past, present, and future information. And so what we also want you to recognize, they just jumped in. Sorry. When they start using we, it's they're coming through me. Sorry.
That's perfectly
But
fine. Very grateful.
so anyway, this is going to be an interesting conversation because I'll be half in and half out. But what's the thing? What they're trying to say to me is that they also not only they hold the records to your life, your soul's plan, and what it is, what you've done in the past up to this particular point and into the future. They're saying here they come. We want you to recognize that we hold the plans in the life for your entire journey. So, we hear people talk about soul blueprints, soul plans. The Akashic field has all of this information, and that's how they can tell me what's happening in your future. Now, with that being said, the future can always be changed, but a lot of people don't really understand that. They don't understand that they are basically, I call them the control tower. And the way that I see the Akashic field a lot of times is like an airport, and you have the flight plan, and the pilot is going by the flight plan, and the pilot in the airplane is basically the pilot is the soul and on the airplane. And then the control tower is the direct communication to our pilot, the soul. And it helps to navigate and helps the soul to know what to do. And if the soul needs help, they're calling the control tower for help. And so a lot of people don't really look at the records that way. They just look at it as the library. I don't see it as a library. It's a lot more interactive than just that. So going back to what I was just saying with more explanation is that I always see my physical body as the airplane, the soul's the pilot. And when the soul needs help or guidance, it taps into the Akashic masters, their guides, and they're basically the control tower, guiding. And if there's a situation such as the soul needs help and the human, the plane, isn't following the direction, and they need, hey, control tower, I need some guides to step in. The control tower also takes care of, hey, we need the eagle to fly over this person so that they'll look up and get a message. We need the billboard with the numbers on it to get their attention. We need an angel to come down and hold their hand. We need to do this or that. So it's much more vast than the simplicity of just the library. There really are helpers. They help to follow the plan that is meant for our soul. And the other thing about this is that it's not just you and me. When you look at the whole collective, of the universe and how everything has to fall into place and these synchronicities that come into our life, it's this universe working together in order to create you, Celine, to cross my paths. Like we said, how my information showed up on your YouTube, and for whatever reason you happened to see it and it got your attention, and you had that little message to where it was, you need to contact her for whatever reason. And whether it's for you and or me or anybody that's going to be listening to this. So when we look at the Akashic records, they are massive and they help and assist in a number of different ways. And it's not just it's all about me. It's really about everything. And so that's my definition of what the Akashic records are, and I hope I
That's
explained
beautiful.
that.
Yeah, I love that
Okay.
image, analogy or yeah, metaphor nearly way of because I think then we can all interpret that in a way that makes sense to us. We can put our own meaning to it and how that looks. How does that relate to then, say if I've heard of the Akashic records, but I haven't been consciously, say, interacting, maybe unconsciously. So if I'm feeling guidance come through, which I do a lot now, and I very much follow it, like contacting you, and I would have said, okay, that could be from, I feel my grandmother a lot. Sometimes I feel guides. Sometimes I feel it's directly from God's source. Where is the cat? Like, where is that in that overall architecture? Is that just, yeah,
Yeah.
how,
Okay. I'm going to channel that information.
okay.
I don't really have the answer. So what we want you to understand is that the Akashic field holds all of the energy and the knowing and the wisdom that exists upon every plane or dimension of consciousness and of universal existence. What we want you to understand is that when there are specific guides that come through you or to you, they're typically working in relationship with your soul so that you can receive a specific message in order to move forward with grace and ease. When you begin to recognize that there's another entity, such as a past family member that contacts you, it depends on the construct or the structure that that specific energy body is existing within. And so what we want you to understand is that the soul can transform, or the energetic body can transform into different levels of consciousness. So what we want you to see is that it is depending on that specific form of energy that is communicating through you, as if it is that specific source that is connecting to you, or if that source is being guided to connect to you. Okay, so the way that I'm seeing this is that, there's so many different layers and dimensions of energies bodies. We can call them, energy, ghosts, spirits, however, guides, however you want to put the label on it, but I see it as an energy form. And so if I'm a medium and I'm connecting to your grandmother, I'm connecting with a specific energy force or source that is directly connected to that energy pattern. Okay,
Mhm.
so that's between you and me and that specific energy level of consciousness. If grandmother is coming to you in a dream because there's a message that needs to be had, then that's probably coming from the Akashic fields and your guides in order for you to get the message to help guide you in a different direction. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
I think so. So I'm just thinking of people listening as well as myself trying to sort of, and I know it's not as simple as an A, B, C.
It's
There's dimensions
complicated.
and our limited and my limited mind can't. So
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah,
like
yeah.
you step back and allow them through. I sort of get that because, you know, the information is sort of felt. I'm getting the sense then that depending on the information and maybe might what would I say, that I might recognize, or maybe depending on me, my soul, and what I need to hear and what I might identify with, it'll come in different ways
Right,
depending, is it on the situation?
right.
Because sometimes I don't know, but I get a very strong knowing and I'm not sure. And often people will say, well, how do you know you're not connecting with something that maybe has a bit of a nefarious type of,
Yeah.
um, so what would you say to that?
There's a difference in the energy field.
Mm.
The feel, FEEL. And so, okay, so apparently I'm going to channel this information.
Good, okay. Go
I
for it.
surrender. They're saying what we want you to understand is that when there is an existence of a darker energy that is trying to penetrate your energetic field, you will feel that there is a form of overtaking, and that this specific energy pattern has a different feel than what the angelic realm is, or the existence of a higher vibrational frequency that is trying to connect to you. We want you to understand that this takes practice. It takes knowing. It takes the ability to stand in love and understanding that love is what brings in love. If you are an individual that stands more in fear and anxiousness and that darker, lower vibrational frequency, you are more likely to attract that form of energy. And once again, this form of energy will create the thought patterns that become more frequent in your mind. And when you begin to recognize that you are feeling more depressed or sad or lonely, you'll begin to recognize that those darker energy fields may have penetrated your energetic body or system, and that they are taking control.
Okay.
Now, I'm not sure
Mm.
that that really answered the question. It was a long story, but
It
it
does,
answered the
well, for
question.
me, and I hope It does for the listeners. And the way I'll just sort of translate when it makes sense for me is I think of it, say, in the physical world. So if I'm out and about and I've become maybe a little bit more discerning in my own energy, and I suppose I've done some work on it over the years and boundaries and things. So I can sense if I'm in the presence of someone, I'm feeling almost a push on my energy that it's like, oh, this feels, I wouldn't have before. And now there's a sense of a more, let's say, sovereignty or a sense of my own field and what's coming in and out of it. And then maybe having a different interaction with another person where I feel quite light and uplifted around them and I leave. So is it something like that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm,
Yeah, that's
mm.
the perfect description. Yeah, and so, like the way that I've had these experiences, I mean, I have paid my dues. I am telling you,
Building
I've
the
had all
muscle.
yeah, I have over the last 20 something years. It's actually been about 23 years that I've been doing this work. I have learned my lesson, and I'm telling you, there's something to life experience when you're doing anything, whether it's a job, whether it's this, anything in life. The amount of time will teach us. And so a lot of these things that you can't just be told, you have to experience it. But with that being said, the more in tune that you are with your body, like you said, you can start feeling different energies, and you can tell if you walk into a room, oh, this energy feels very heavy and depressive, and I don't feel comfortable here. There's something that's giving me the willies or whatever. And so you know to leave, or you may walk into a room and you're like, oh my gosh, this feels like home. I feel my heart grow and expand. It feels loving and caring. I want to stay here. And so when we're having the interactions with these spiritual beings or creatures, then when one comes to you and presents itself to you, I made the mistake of, oh, you look like Jesus. Yay, come on in, and welcoming them in. But there are imposters, there's tricksters. And so again, using discernment and not just being open to anything and everything is really significant. There's ways that we have a tendency just to accept or take anything that's being presented to us because we think in the spiritual world that everything is good or everything can be bad. Either way, there's a point that we have to learn how to recognize without our mind telling us or putting labels on or describing everything that's happening. So I'm a big believer in getting in touch with your body and learning how to feel, learning how to sense, recognizing that your inner guidance will guide you. And I've had a number of experiences where everything inside me was saying, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. And I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. I can do this. Nothing bad's going to happen. And then it didn't turn out well. And so, there's this point of really listening to that inner voice and recognizing that your angels and your higher support system will always guide you, and they'll hold you in their love and their light because that's where they want you to stay. So when you start going into these places where you might find these little critters, these little things that might not be of the highest light, your guides will typically help you and assist you. You just have to stay out of your mind. You just have to
Mm,
really truly learn to listen to that inner voice and that feeling, that's within you, and trust it. And that's really my best advice to
yeah.
to discern these differences.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I've noticed that more my body, and I know there's sort of some people who are naturally more sensitive and maybe others who aren't, and we can develop it throughout our lives. But I've definitely found, and I talk about it a lot, reducing toxicity in my life, physically, mentally, emotionally, which I'm still in the process of, has definitely lit up more of my feeling senses.
Yeah.
And it seems, is this the key? Let's see, the key to this journey is that shift from, like, we have this ego mind structure, almost a prison from what I've experienced, that where we come in free, we come in then to this sort of imprison, and the journey is really to say extract ourselves so that we remember who we truly are, that we
Yeah.
forget. And is that
Absolutely.
Is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. And if we, if we really think about how we live our lives, we create our protective bubble. And so, through the experiences that we have, and the more experiences that are uncomfortable to us, I always see metal plates. The more of these metal plates that we put around us, and we end up staying in this little bubble or this little shield. I always see it like the knight in armor, and
Yes.
the metal the suit of armor,
Mm.
that is protecting us, and we create this armor. But what also that also does is that it narrows our perception and perspective, and it holds us prisoner within our body. So when we do that, we're also blocking out the light and the love that's coming to us, because we're so busy trying to stay in this protective mode that we have a tendency to stay in the toxicity,
Mm.
because that's what we've surrounded ourselves with. And so if I have for example, if I have an experience with a father issue, or even a mother issue, to where I developed the belief system that I'm not worthy, I'm not good, or I didn't get enough love, and so therefore I don't feel like anybody around me would ever love me. I'm putting myself and holding myself in that toxic belief system. And so until I can get rid of that and pull that out, then I'll be more aware of the love energy, and the acknowledgement that I am more than what I used to believe myself to be. I am love, I am whole, I am complete. And at that point, then that toxicity that was holding me down is moved out. And then I am a lot more receptive, and I can feel that energy more
Yes.
because I'm open to it more.
Yes. But
That makes
something
sense?
near it does. My sense, and I'll talk of myself, as exactly like you said, something happens as a child to all of us, because
Yeah.
it's the human condition that our parents had their parents. And so, like you said, something happens, I'm not loved. I create that belief then that to sustain that through my life, which is part of the prison, on more, more, more. And then is it the case, like I always cite cancer, but there were other little rattles before that, but that was the big one. So it nearly seems that something like that has to happen, and it's happening majorly on the planet right
Yeah.
now. It
Yeah.
feels really like the ground, I can feel it every day shaking. And so, is that really is that almost the design, that that has to happen in the human journey?
Well, yes, it is. Because we are so complacent. The humans, they keep jumping in. Sorry, they call
Oh,
us
I
the
love it. I
humans.
love it. Thank you.
The humans, humans are we are so stinking stubborn, and as long as everything is smooth sailing, then we're going to keep everything status quo. We do not ever want to rock the boat. And even if I'm not happy, I'm going to stay in the same situation because I can exist in it until I break, until something happens to where I just can't do this anymore. So the universe has this way of shaking us up so that we can shift our perspective. We can see things from a different way, and we can recognize that I literally cannot do this anymore. I have to change the way that I'm seeing this. I have to get people out of my life. I have to move forward in this way in order to find my happiness and joy. Leaving a job, like if, and so many of us, it's a paycheck, it's a job, but I'm miserable. I hate it. And I get people all the time that are in this point of, I don't like my job anymore. I don't want to do it. I know, because it's, and
It's
this is why
fun.
you're
Yeah.
having these
Yeah.
feelings, is
Mm.
because the universe is pushing us. And what I always see is that if you really think about how we are as silly humans, when do we ask for help and guidance? When we're down on our knees, when you're down on your knees and you're to the point of, I can't do this and I don't know what to do this. God, please help me. Please show me the way. And isn't it interesting that we have to be broken before we start listening and asking for the help that's provided to us every second of the day. But
Mhm.
where we are is that we as humanity on earth literally are being shaken up so that we can see each other differently, we can live our lives differently, we can get happy again, and we can live in this place of joy, and we can tear down and break down these things that are keeping us so limited and so unhappy. And so that is what's happening right now. And if you look at each one of us, something has happened or occurred over the last 5 years for every single one of us or more that has created some form of an event that is breaking down a form of a belief system that was holding you prisoner, holding you in that iron suit. And it's going to continue to happen until we clean house, till we get rid of this stuff. And then that's how we're going to find our happy place, which is what I call the fifth dimension, what the guides call the fifth dimension. And it's literally, the guides always call it, we're moving into the institution of joy.
Mm. Beautiful.
Ah, okay. Well, how do we get joyful? Oh, well, we're going to have to break down a lot of stuff that is not bringing joy. So how are we going to do that? And that's what's being presented to us. So it's definitely, we're getting pushed, our boundaries are getting pushed so that we can see and we can shift and change into this new way of being.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Can I ask as well? So, on some level, I feel grateful that I feel I understand that on some level, it is chaotic because I had my own breakdown and I'm sure I might have more. But I've seen what's possible on the other side. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. So,
Yeah.
and it hasn't been easy, like all of us. So I'm looking out at the world sometimes, and I don't look out at it too much because I sort of feel that just has to play out. This is what you're describing. And then there are other people I meet, and they're absolutely in fear and what's going on, and oh my God. So I suppose my question is, as we're continuing to move through this, and it seems like for quite a while, what can we do, or what would the guide say, or you say we can do to support ourselves or to support others so that we can move through this as smoothly as possible?
Yeah, and I know that this is a very simplistic answer, but as you're talking, this is what's coming to me. Find love. And
Mm,
I know that that's so simple, but it's really not. When we think about the definition of love, it's self-love. Oh my gosh. Can I really truly love myself wholly and completely without looking at any of my faults, without looking at anything that I wish I would have done differently? Oh, I wish I wouldn't have said that. Oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. Oh, I wish. So getting into this point of forgiveness and letting go of the self-hatred is really what we're intended to work on right now. And the way that this is always described to me, again, through the records, is that this is the time that we need to become selfish. We're so conditioned throughout our history. Gosh, everything is based, I mean, you look at everything that's based on you, me, Lisa, you are supposed to make everybody else happy. My mother, you didn't do what I told you to do, so I'm going to punish you. Everything that you have, we are conformed to fit into everyone else's expectations. And if I don't give to you in the way that you expect me to, I'm a failure. I've done something wrong. You're disappointed in me. I'm small. All of these things. So the way that we start really looking at our perception of disappointing others and the way that people treat us, just like I said, how many friends or relationships have you had where somebody said, you didn't meet up to my expectations? And the expectations is the key. But but when we don't meet everybody else's expectations, then we feel like failures. We put ourselves down. We're small. We did this wrong, whatever it may be. And so that's when we start beating ourselves up. And and you look all the way back from the time that we're born, how many times that we've been put in these situations of looking at ourselves as we've done something wrong. And then we
Mm.
take on that burden of being the wrongdoer. So where the self love thing comes in is being able to recognize, wait just a minute, I'm not going to live my life any longer for what you expect of me. And literally, it's this point of going inward and start living my everyday life for, wait a minute, what makes me happy? What do I want to do? Do I want to work at a job that I'm having to answer to something that I feel very against? Do I have the power to change that? Do I have the power to change a relationship that is making me feel small and insignificant, that nobody listens to me? Okay, well, I can change that. All of these different things that or situations that we're put in that control us. It's time to break that control. We keep seeing, all of these belief systems that are breaking down. The belief system is that I'm subservient to all of you people.
Mm.
So that belief system, and it's funny what they're showing me now is going back to, the generations of slavery. And it's, you think about how many lifetimes that we have been put in the situation of being accountable to somebody else's control. This is every single soul on earth has been in this position. And so in this particular lifetime, we we hear everybody that's here is put on earth at this particular lifetime to correct that karmic energy. Now, that's just one of them. It's a pretty big energetic karmic pattern that we're all meant to break, because as long as we hold on to that idea that we are subservient to others, we cannot move into that place or the institution of joy. So what
Mm.
we have to recognize is that I'm no longer living in the idea that I am subservient to you. We are equal. We are all equal. And they're saying, and this is what's going to carry you into the future. The idea and the understanding that I am you and you are me, and I am a simplistic, energetic being that is filled with the virtue of love from the highest consciousness. And we all recognize that you as humans stand in the love and the light that we provide, but humans fail to see the gift that we have given.
Oh my, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. And you know what comes to me exactly and it's like we're almost then in dynamics, isn't it? That triggers that, because I'm finding that more that's triggering. Okay, I want to go out and I'm going, no, I need to come back in here and what is right for me. And I think, oh, that's such an important message, because what I keep feeling we've been fed for so long is that it's, as we hear, selfish. If I take care of me, then it's to the cost of someone else.
Yeah.
What I firmly believe, and I keep saying, is if I live or anyone else lives at their highest potential, following their heart, sharing their gifts, that is the benefit to everyone,
Absolutely.
isn't it? That is
Absolutely.
and that we
And
have then to be sovereign and follow what's right.
yeah,
I remember a beautiful healer I went to once said to me, if you're saying no to someone, see it as saying yes to yourself. And if you're saying yes to yourself, you're saying yes to them, because that has to be for their highest good.
yeah,
But I think we have still don't, I don't think we have got that
yeah.
really like.
We no, we haven't gotten that. No.
I'm not saying I always have got it, but I get glimpses and I go, I know this, but I
Yeah,
still find myself over explaining, and I think many of us still do. So it's
yeah,
really, really wonderful to hear you and the
yeah.
guides share that.
Well, and it's almost like it's empowering ourselves. It's taking your power back. And we, again, we're put in these positions to where we, again, becoming subservient to somebody else's demands, and recognizing how that makes you feel. How many times have you done something that you didn't want to do, and how do you feel? Depleted. Oh God, I guess I'm going to do it. They're insisting, they're jumping up and down, and I have to do this or else I'm going to get in trouble. Okay, wait just a minute. What if I actually said, no, I refuse to do what you're asking me to do because it's not in alignment with who I am? Oh my gosh, I just took my power back and I'm standing up for myself. So, what does that do to your whole energetic body? It's self-love, it's loving myself, it's standing in my love, my soul's content that's within me. It's bringing out the power of the soul and the knowledge and the wisdom that lies within the soul without covering it up due to somebody else's belief systems or expectations of who I should be. So it's really revealing your truth. And when we get down to that point of standing in this place of love, this crazy concept of love, what happens to my whole energetic body? I become a light being. I become this walking, beautiful, energetic being that is nothing with love but love. So, what happens when we talked about the room earlier in this conversation, and you walk into a room that feels uncomfortable, you want to walk out and leave. If you walk into a room that is full of love and light and it feels homey and comfortable to you, you want to stay. Well, if I'm standing in that beautiful energy and my body is emitting that energy, what's going to happen? It's contagious. It's going to fill the room, and everybody that's in that room is going to feel that love and that energy. The more that we work on ourselves and the more that we stand in our truth, the more it's going to help humanity. And people don't understand that. They feel like I need to work on you, and you. I have to change you, and you. No, you don't. No, you don't change anyone. You have to change yourself, and then it just happens. And that is the hardest concept for us humans to understand because we always have to be in control, whether somebody is controlling me or I am controlling somebody else. It's letting go of the control and it's standing in the truth of who we are. When we stand in that, I see you soul to soul. I see your energetic vibration, and you and I resonate on that higher frequency to where I am you, you are me, and we are one. We are
Mm.
all equal. The mind is what separates us.
Yeah. I was going to ask you then, how do, speaking of that lovely mind, I know there's the sort of the one universal mind, isn't it, that we're all part of, and then there's the ego mind, as you spoke about, that is necessary for us to survive. So how do we marry those? So we come back into this place of honoring self and listening to that wisdom. And the way I'm sort of feeling it now is that my mind really then is just really helping me navigate the ins and outs. It's sort of it's reporting, as you said, you have the control tower and then the body. So it's sort of reporting to, is it that the car is more lined up with the pilot?
Yeah,
Who's in the
yeah,
driving seat, I often think of the
right.
car.
And the more that we can break down our belief systems,
Mm,
then the less we stay in our mind and the more we stay in our heart space. So what the records have always, with the way they describe it to me is the more simplistic the mind, the more you stand in the truth of who you are. Clean out your mind, clean it out. So, and again, I don't, people that are going through this experience of this shift, I always see, I've had a number of experiences of seeing the plugs in my head and how these belief systems are plugged in. And then when we start breaking down these belief systems, they're unplugging. It's rewiring our brains. Every time that you let go of a belief system that holds you down, you're reprogramming your brain. So the more that we can let go of the idea that I'm small, I'm insignificant, or I have to control you, or all of these belief systems that are keeping us confined, every single one of those little bitty belief systems that we let go of frees the mind up. And I see it like that little energy of love light comes in and fills that space that you just unplugged.
okay.
So the more that we can let go of these things that cause anxiety, the things that cause fear, the things that create control, all of these things that are the heavy 3D energy. descriptors. The more that we can let that go, the more that we're standing in our own love and power, the more that we are connected to source, to our guides, to everything that is. But it's the ability to accept the idea of breaking down the old constructs. And that's why the universe is taking us to this point of breaking.
It has to, is it?
Because,
Because it's just so. I used to see it like a vice grip around my head that is getting looser. And exactly that. It was post-cancer and all of that, that everything just was like I was, oh, there's nothing there anymore. And it starts to find its grip again. But I felt the spaciousness. I still, I used to be trying to tell people, this, I'd say they probably thought God, Celine's lost her mind. Well, I had lost my mind.
yeah,
But so in
literally.
literally, you have to lose your mind. But isn't
Yeah.
that one of the hardest things? So for someone, I used to work in a university. So as an example, Lisa, and you've someone like that you're talking to, how would you, because for people who believe it's founded completely on this intellectual mind that's separate from everything else, how would you talk about this?
Well, I think that this is a really big misconception because when we're
Mm,
talking about letting go of these old belief systems, I hear comments all the time. Well, we can't function if we're not thinking. Well, yes, you are. I mean, you're still going to drive your car and stop at red lights. You still have the intellect that a doctor's not going to lose the ability to understand, the structure of the human body. These things are not shifting and changing. What what the universe wants us to do is let go of the energetic control that has been embedded within us for centuries.
mm,
That's what's happening. We're not going to lose the ability to be intellectual. We're not going to lose the ability to have conversations. Now, we might want less of some of these conversations because we don't want to talk about it anymore. But the world is going to have to continue to function. We still need food. We need somebody to grow the food. We need all of these things, how it gets to the grocery store or wherever we purchase our food. All of these things are still going to be in place. We're still going to have doctors. We're still going to have the lawyers. We're still going to have the politicians. We're still going to have everything that's structured. But what the difference is that it's going to be coming from a more heart-centered space than that of the greed, the control, the power. All of that is what's leaving. My ego saying I have to control you is what's leaving. My ego that says I have to have more money because I've got to live in a bigger house, that's what's changing. And it's so hard for the average person to understand when we're talking about this, of how this is really breaking down. We're all going to have the function, and we have to still be humans, but the
mm.
intention behind what we do is going to be more heart centered if we can break down those old belief systems and that old control.
Yes. So is it like that we came in very pure and all of it's because of the wounding and the trauma that nearly all of this, because sometimes I look around in the world and I can look at myself and go, oh my God, we're just like children. Like all our childhood wounds are, playing out. So is that a big part? Because another side of this I wanted to ask is in doing that, to me, what seems to prevent it sometimes is there's so much trauma still held in the body from all these experiences, and they're capped down with the mind. The mind is we're keeping all these at bay and we're making sense of them. But now
Mhm.
through the chaos that you described. So how, if someone is feeling hugely, because you can sense it around the world, all of this emotion and energy is coming to the surface. How do we best support that? Because it seems to me if that starts to leave, then the mind can open up.
Yeah, it's almost like you really have to start believing that this is even an option to let go of
Yeah.
that old trauma.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, I can actually let go. And so a lot of things too is that, you know, I found that I've had experience through my life that I'm seeing a repeated pattern that I do. But I'm doing that because I'm afraid that if I don't hold on to the belief system that this person treated me a certain way. So red flag, red flag, red flag. I'm going to hold on to that belief system, and I'm not going to let that go. Then I start creating a judgment or a characteristic that I'm going to be putting on every person that I meet that I might have a relationship with. Okay, so I have this belief system that's holding me down to this place of judging you and putting a label or an idea on you before I even know anything about it or what this relationship could be. Okay, so I have this belief and I'm going to hold on to it. Okay, well, how do I break that belief system? I have to recognize, number one, in my logical mind, that I can let that go. And that just because this situation happened in the past, it does not mean that it's going to continue to happen in the future. I have to believe that even if I see the same characteristics in this person that was in that person that hurt me, I'm going to be open enough to recognize that this may be an opportunity that I'm supposed to gain something from, and I'm willing to jump into it to see how it unfolds before I shut the door on its face before it even starts. I believe that I can change my perspective on a situation because something may be different than what happened 20 years ago. I've changed, different, all the stuff that changed. So maybe it's not even going to be the same outcome.
Mm.
And so it's more or less of breaking down that mind pattern once again that, oh, yes, I can change the way I'm thinking. I can believe that I can do this. But the other thing is that, I have this belief system that I can't do something so simple. Like, oh, I can't do that. That's too hard. Okay, well, where did that belief system come from? Because when you were a child, that when you were in kindergarten or whatever, preschool or whatever, and the teacher said, oh, that's dumb, you shouldn't do that, you need to throw that away. Okay, well, now I'm the failure, so I'm going to protect myself from ever being put in the position of somebody perceiving that I failed at something by having the belief system that I can't do it because it appears to be too hard for me. So then I stay limited and I never can see what my fullest potential is because I'm hiding behind that belief system. It's scary to let go of the idea that if I jump into this, if I do this when I think that I can't and then I fail, then I just confirmed what I believed. But
Mm.
what happens if you take the step and you actually succeed at it? Well, it's just much more comfortable for me to hide. I'm not going to take a chance. So you understand how the belief system of the
Yes.
mind, the way
Yes.
the mind's programmed and how we use it is what holds us and constricts us. So
Yes.
we have to believe that
Yeah.
you can do anything if you choose to do it.
I know, but is there I suppose this whole free will versus, the fact that we have, I feel I study astrology and I love looking at the chart and go, okay, the way I look at it is, it's not that there's this is the way your life is going to turn out. It's like these are the energies or whatever that you came into play with, whatever color or character or expression or lessons, and we each chose them. But within that, there's free will. So how would you see that? Or like I would, is there a divine timing that for each of us, it's like, okay, for me, 2016, February, I got a diagnosis of cancer, that's when I'm going to choose, I'm going to suffer maybe for quite a while and then the big rattle. So would the guide say that that was what I planned on my journey, or was there flexibility and I chose to maybe,
What we want you to understand is that you specifically had to have this recognition of who you are and what your body could obtain. So there was a belief system that you had that created the idea that your body would fail at some point. Now, I don't know. This is just what's coming to me, but this
sure.
could have happened, way back when you were a kid. You could
Mm,
have broken your arm or twisted your ankle
mm,
or something, and it's like my body failed.
yes.
Okay. So what we want you to see is that belief system that your body would fail or not sustain what you would think that it should, created the thought or the idea and the energetic pattern that opened the door for the toxicity that created the cancer to attach and to hold on to what the cells are in your physical structure. So what we want you to understand is that it was created for you to break the belief system that you are not worthy of a full functioning healthy body, and that you cannot fight what the body needs. Okay, so meaning um, that your body can't repair itself for some reason. You know, there was something that probably happened to you. That why is my sprained ankle not getting well faster? You know, why are you not whole and complete? And then you start tiptoeing around, because I don't want to sprain my ankle again. I don't want to do anything that's going to cause that injury again. And so that belief system is embedded that you're fragile. And
Mm.
that belief system is what creates the weak spot in your physical body that allowed the cancer to embed within your physical system. But what we want you to understand and know is that you were brought this gift so that you could see and you could recognize that the understanding of what your physical body could obtain would be much different than what you perceived it to be. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So it's,
Yeah.
yeah, the power of, but the power of beliefs. But I obviously, I suppose not just me or for anyone in their life path is, I suppose as well on that is the question that I chose to test nearly that belief in this lifetime. You know, was that
Yeah.
one of the things I pre, you
Yeah,
know,
and
that we have?
basically,
Mm.
you know, unfortunately, yes, you
Yeah.
know, that you
Yeah.
did. And, you know, and again, that what I'm seeing is that you had past life experiences where your body had failed as well. And different diseases and different situations where you found that you had this pattern coming in. And so then in this particular lifetime, it was emphasized so that you could break that karmic pattern and no longer relive it.
Mm. So
You
is
know,
that
which
the
is
key?
really
Yeah.
hard.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's hard for us to understand when it's happening
Mm.
to us.
Mm.
You know, it's because cancer is serious. You know, people die from
Yeah.
cancer. And, you know,
Yeah.
immediately we go into this place of, oh my gosh, my mortality is,
Yeah.
I'm looking at life or death. And, you know, it can be really, oh, let me say, heart wrenching, you know, in
Mm.
order to kind of look and really dig and dive into what all is entailed with this, and understand that some people survive and some people don't, depending on what their journey is and what the experience is that the soul signed up for. But what we do want you to know is that your guides are always with you, and they recognize what you need and when you need it. If the human chooses to stay in the same cycle, then they will continue to stay in the same cycle. If the human can recognize that the mind can be broken and that belief system can shift, then they will find the remedy for the situation.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
It does make sense. And thank you. So there's a couple of things there. One, and I'll forget if I don't say the first one was, yes. uh, So that potential to recognize that that belief system is there, and you said the choice. So what, because it's like what, or can they tell us like what triggers that? Is that pre-design, pre-orchestrated, or is it just that this lifetime is offering that's a beautiful thing to hear maybe as well, that we have the potential in this lifetime particularly to break a lot of these, maybe more than we did in our previous lives, if you know, some people may or may not believe we've had previous lives.
Yeah.
Is it that there's more possibility in this lifetime because of the time of, you know, we're going through in terms of our evolution?
Yeah. Well, for you, they're saying for you specifically, you came into this lifetime with the pre they're saying the pre-diagnosis of a body ailment due to the past traumatic history, traumatic, traumatic, the traumatic history that you had had. But what the goal was to see if you could break that belief system about your physical body before the incident occurred. But because that didn't happen, recognize that
Mhm.
dis-ease, it was implemented so that you could recognize how to survive this. So again, for your specific diagnosis, you were never meant to be terminal.
Mhm.
That wasn't what the plan was. The plan was for you to survive and recognize, and then they're saying, and then become recognize that you have become the mouthpiece for other dimensions by the event that this happened, which was by design. And so what we want you to see is that you have the ability to shift and change your consciousness any way you choose to, but you also have the ability to stay in the mind's construct that will hold you back and continue the same patterns that you're on.
Mm.
Does that make
Is
sense?
that for me or for all of us? All of us.
Well, this was to you
Yes.
specifically,
Yes.
but it's for all of us. I mean,
We
you
can
can
repeat. So yeah,
understand.
I could stay in
Yeah.
that belief system of the body failing me
Hmm.
if,
Yeah.
that's a
And
possibility.
yeah, and if you stayed in that belief system, it may not be cancer that reoccurs, but again, it may be that what I'm seeing is that maybe osteoporosis would
Mm.
create the breaking bones,
Mhm.
and then and having trouble for the bones to mend because you have the belief system that it can't happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so and I think what's coming to me is the power of thought,
Yeah. It's
and
really coming through. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So for all of us, yeah, thank you. That's yeah, that's so helpful. The power of the mind and what's available to all of us. Can I ask you then as well, Lisa, just in terms of the human being as we are now, and maybe I've heard people talk a lot about as well our galactic history, and that's coming more into I don't know, the zeitgeist at the moment. What exactly, can you talk a little bit about that? What, in terms of our, I suppose, our evolution to where we are now, what were, is there a
the
simple way to sort of give a sense of
well,
that?
the galactic beings are very intertwined, and it's funny because I've been having a whole lot of conversations about this over the
I know
last
it's
two
come up
weeks.
hugely in my awareness. I don't know
Yeah,
why, out of nowhere.
yeah, yeah, and we're very much tied to galactic technology, the galactic beings, and the galactic way of being. But what there's the records are coming in again. But what we want you to understand is that every human being that walks upon the earth has a direct tie or connection to a specific galactic source of information. All humans have been embedded with specific codes that are directly connected to galactic wisdom so that they can enhance the understanding of who they can become and how to get there. We also want you to understand that there are galactic beings that are walking upon the earth at this particular time and serve as a source of information and knowledge in order for the human race to become more one, becoming more where we can recognize that we are all one and that it's an energy tie that ties us all together instead of me looking at that, oh my God, you're from Mars. Ah!
I'm from Venus, like the book. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's actually not Mars, but the Palladians or all of the other the galactic beings. But what we want you to understand is that everything on Earth at this particular time is directly connected to the galactic knowledge, so that the elevation in frequency and consciousness can be had. So they're helping us to ascend. They're helping us break down these old belief systems and this old energy pattern. And I'm going to leave it at that. But it's like I'm kind of running out of words. So is there
Okay.
anything else that you want to ask about that?
No, it's just I don't want to overcomplicate things. I just understand that I suppose they're in that hierarchy of all you have the Akashic records and the control tower. Are they beyond? I suppose maybe
Well, they're in a different dimension
okay,
than,
okay. Is that
okay,
the
so
best way
like
to?
you have the spiritual
Yes.
dimension, and then you have they're saying the physical structure.
Mm-hmm.
The physical structure of the galactic beings is much more earthly. than it is spiritual. That what the difference is that the galactic structure has the ability to come to the human structure, and they can connect on an energetic pattern that is much different than the human structure. Okay, so but what I'm saying is that it's something like telepathy.
Mm.
When you can open up, and you can create an energetic connection with these other um, beings. It's not exactly the same frequency as like what I'm in when I'm in the Akashic records. It's a little different frequency. So like I can't connect with ETs. Okay, so but I can connect in with the Akashic records. So people that are more in aligned with channeling the galactic beings have a little different frequency and are receptive to their energy that's different from mine. Now, with that being said, I'm not saying that somebody can only connect with galactic beings or they can only connect with the angel realm. It depends on our frequency and how we can maneuver around. And what I'm seeing is like a
Radio
radio
station. I
dial.
just
Yeah.
just feeling that straight away.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you understand you've got to tune in to whatever source of information that.
And I suppose a follow-on question from that is, can we all do that? Do we all have just one radio station, or are like, are some of us more versatile and we
Well,
can?
they're saying that we all have multiple radio stations. Every human on earth has a multitude of frequency bands that they can choose to tune into if they wish to. So again, but it's also like what I'm seeing is the dark energies. I have the ability to deal with the dark energies. I have the ability to talk to any of the galactic beings. I have the ability to talk to the angel realm. I have the ability to talk to the masters. Where am I going to where am I going to tune my channel to? Okay.
Mm.
So we all have this ability. What limits us is the mind's construct.
Okay, so this is available to all of us, and it's coming on more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it does seem to be coming on more. The more I meet people who have done more of the work, hope, and breaking that down, I'm finding, like how we found each other, these connect. This is the beauty, I suppose, for listeners as well. This is what starts to become available. I'm noticing in my life slowly but surely, as it's like a little muscle. And it's like we'll give you a little bit more once we can see you know how to deal with what you've got. That's
Yeah.
what I get the sense of. And then,
That's
okay, we'll
exactly
open up
right.
another
Yeah.
little door. Is that sort of how it works? And we'll
Yeah.
open another and another. But we need to
Yeah.
know that you're able to operate in the room that you're in first,
Yeah.
and then we'll let you into another
Absolutely.
room, like a child.
Yeah, well, and they're laughing and saying, that we couldn't handle it if, and I'm seeing like these doors open into this big black sky with all the stars. You wouldn't know what to do. You'd be like going, okay, I'm here, now what?
Mhm.
Huh? So it's literally, it's like going, your education. You start in the first grade and you learn the very basics, and then you start growing and advancing. Same thing. It's the same thing. Same, but what we also want you to understand is that the human body is a component that is the receiver of all knowledge and wisdom. So basically, like what I see is that, like I'm a receiver. If you have two radios or whatever, we're all receivers. We can receive all this information. But if you put the blockages around you, again, remember that suit of the, oh my God, the whatever the
Armor.
knights, the armor. Yes, thank you. The suit of armor on, then that frequency or that transmission is going to bounce off of it. It serves as the
Okay.
interference. You're saying, so what we also want you to recognize is how communication will change in the future when individuals begin to move into this fifth dimension and recognize that they can tune into the electromagnetic and the currency that's within each one of them. So you and I, it's and what I always see is like whales or dolphins, that's in the radio or the sonar.
Yes.
We all have the ability to do that. We all know that there's this thing called telepathy.
Hmm.
Well, what blocks the telepathy? My brain. It's because I'm so
Mm.
busy thinking that I'm not in that wave pattern. But how many times have you thought about somebody and then you hear from them? Oh, I was just thinking about you. It's a form of telepathy, it's a form of communication, and it's all on that frequency pattern. So the more that we open up, the more that I'm going to tune into your frequency, the more that we're going to be able to communicate on a way that, is on an energetic level.
Yeah.
being able to connect energetically, heart to heart, soul to soul. And the other thing that is really interesting of what's shifting and changing is that when I look at you, I'm not going to see you. I'm going to see your energy field. I'm going to see that and feel that heart connection. So that where these labels or ideas that are, oh, you're overweight and this is what I see. I see that you weigh more than what I think you should weigh, so you're fat. And I stick that label on you. And that's how I identify you now. All of those ideas are what's going away. I'm not going to put labels on you anymore. What I'm going to start seeing is not with my eyes and the way that my brain interprets it, but what I'm feeling is how I'm going to recognize you. Oh, you're feeling a little prickly today. I think I'm going to leave. Oh, you're feeling love and
Like the
kind. Ah,
animals.
yeah, exactly right. And so, how do they know this? How do they instinctively know when there's a bad predator that's coming up on them? And so this is what we're moving into. But again, it's all the belief system of being able to recognize that you can do this. And this is essentially who we are. We've just covered it all up. It's always been there.
So we're taking off the layers. And just
Absolutely.
one other question that comes straight up to me, and maybe you've heard of it, the telepathy tapes. Have you?
Oh
The
yeah.
new podcast that I only have glimpses, and I heard a beautiful interview. I have to, and I get the shivers every time I mention it, with Pam Gregory and Vida Austin on the consciousness of water. And she was interviewing Vida Austin or talking to some of the autists. And there was something really interesting. So they are literally the wisdom they are bringing through. And I think the person, I'm not, could be wrong on this, who hosts the podcast has a telepathic conversation with the autists. But
Yeah.
one of them recently said, I just, oh my God, it was that, as I understood it, they were saying they nearly haven't fully come into the body. The body is too dense. So for them to be able to bridge the higher consciousness and can bring that into earth, they have to be outside of the body.
Yeah.
So we look and say there's something wrong with them. When they're, it's
Yeah.
just wow. Like, so
Yeah, it's
that,
it's
yeah,
making it's making my head tingle.
because they were doing
Yeah,
that. Yeah, that's what they were.
yeah. When I listened to the telepathy tapes, I literally was jumping up and down. I was like, "Oh my God, this is the fifth dimension. Where these people live is the fifth dimension." And you know like you said, how they can travel there is that they're outside of this physical construct, and typically they're outside of the physical construct because they're so high vibrationally sensitive. They can't stand what we're doing. They get overloaded with this all of this craziness that we've created, so their escape is, I'm out of here, I'm done. you know
Mm.
and so if we think about how to disengage with these constructs of our mind and the chaos that we create within ourselves, that is our future. That's who we are. They're just ahead of us. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's I
And
I
yet we
was
have sort of them in, oh, they're not fitting into our six systems, so there's something wrong with them. And I know that's obviously part of the process, but my God, I just look at them and go, how brave you are in one way to
yeah,
come in to this.
seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it
and
must
and
be
what a
such
great gift
courage.
you are to humanity. If we can just break down this belief system that they don't have to fit in our world. I want to fit in their world.
Mm.
Let's just change this idea a little bit.
Mm.
What if I could escape and meet you on the hill
Yeah.
and have a
Yeah.
conversation on the hill? How fun would that be when you're in Ireland and I'm in the United States? So you think about, and the love, oh my gosh, what if I didn't know anything but love? What if I could only stand in this place of love and truth? Gosh, that would be awesome. How beautiful is that? And so, yeah, so when I heard that, I listened to the telepathy tapes and I was literally jumping up and down. And I'm so excited. And I'm so excited that she has put that information together for us to hear.
Yeah, it feels like would you say or would the guide say we're, I wouldn't say close to an apex or a peak in terms of what's happening? It feels like it, I feel it nearly every day. I'm feeling, oh my God, are we at some sort of peak moment? It feels like,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
would they say? Are
we
we
are.
close to this peak of?
Oh,
Chaos,
absolutely. And they're
chaos.
saying
Yeah.
recognize that the world is breaking down around you so that you can see the light that's being exposed.
Mm.
You bet. We're closer than we've ever been.
So
And
this
as
is the,
hard as it is for people to understand,
yeah.
because there is the chaos has to happen. It has to be this way, and in order for us to be able to see things from a different perspective and not stay so um, comfortable in the uncomfortableness. It's time for us to break down who we are and what we believe in, and be true to ourselves. And that is what's happening. And it's exactly like what you're saying. I see it exactly as an apex too. We're up here at the top, and we're getting ready to start rolling down the hill. And
Good.
and all of that is going to be left behind us. Now again, it's not for everybody because we're going in waves. I see it as there we're having waves, and the way that it's always been described to me is that we're the first wavers. The people that are a little bit further down their path are the first wave of people, and I always see it like a medieval army, like
Mm.
storming the castle.
I see
Like,
holding hands. I always get to
yeah,
find the people to hold hands with at times.
yeah, you
Can't do
know
this.
Yeah, and like the first wave of soldiers goes into to storm the castle and create the chaos. So, and we're the ones that are coming in that are creating the chaos and learning the ins and the outs of what this is, what that's not. How we need to, this is the lay of the land kind of a thing. And then we're going to turn around to the rest of the troops and say, okay, we got it down. You guys come on. This is what you can expect. This is how it's going to go. So here comes the second wave, and then the third wave, and I don't know how many waves there are going to be. It's going to be until it's not anymore. But
Is that like Dolores Cannon's wave of volunteers? Is that
yeah,
not? Is it something? I don't know. Is that?
I don't
I
listen
don't
to
know.
Dolores Cannon. I
I
don't listen to
know, I know.
anybody
She's
else,
not
so
here.
I
I
don't
know,
know.
I know, I know. It's the same, I suppose, waves. I just heard that. Yeah, and I sense that. Can I ask also of you, in that, in the waves, I get a sense that, right now there's this, people talk about a bifurcation. There'll be people who will make the choice to move to 5D and those who won't, or is it just maybe at a later stage? Because it feels, just to give an example, and I think many might be feeling this, I could be having a conversation with someone out on the street and we're both saying, oh my God, isn't it awful? And gosh, and and you're coming from the same place. We'd love peace, we'd love love, we want all of this, but the visual of how we're interpreting it is absolutely, completely the opposite if we were to talk about the specifics. And I
Right.
find this sort of hilarious in one way and crazy. The
Yeah.
people are going,
Mhm.
isn't the world crazy? But their view of what the crazy is completely opposite to my view of the
Yeah.
crazy. So we
Yeah.
stay away from the details.
Yeah.
What,
Yeah.
how is that sort of part of it? Or is it just the way we're all, I don't know, opening up to
Well,
what's
it's all giving us the opportunity to see the other person's perspective.
okay? Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
so I had an interesting little vision a couple of weeks ago, because the United States is a little bit chaotic right now. I don't know about how the rest of the world's doing, but we're kind of in a little bit of turmoil here. And I have people come to me and say, "Oh my God, how are we going to deal with this? What are we going to do?" And then I have the people over here that's saying, "Yeah, this is the best thing possible." So what I recognize though is that my belief system puts me over here, my belief system puts me over here. Okay, how are we raised? How are we seeing the world? How all of these things. This is what's creating our identity. So if I can break down the idea of I have this group of people that are going to be hardcore um, one way or the other, I'm putting labels on them. But if I take one person from this group and really sit down and talk to them and ask them, why do you believe the way that you do? What happened in your family history? What happened to create the idea that you believe the way that you do? Then you start putting an identity on this person and you're not labeling them. You're recognizing that we are all individuals that have had experiences. We are all individuals that are living their journey. We all have a soul. We're all going down a path that may be different from every single other person because we're all individual. It's a soul's journey. It's not about me as the human. It's about the soul that's inside of me. So if I begin to look at, oh, Okay, well, this is an experience that you have to go through in order to break down these old belief systems. Okay, I honor that. Okay, you over here, you're very opposite from this person's belief system, but really, how similar are you? You may have the same tactics and the same way of seeing something, but you're seeing it from a different way, but it all comes down to the same thing, which typically has to do with control. Okay, so because I want to control how you believe, I want to control the scenario, I want to control what's happening, because you have to believe just like me. And if you don't believe like me, you're a failure, you're small, you're nothing. What's wrong with you? So you take both sides and they're identical, but just in different ways. It's just coming out in different ways. So if I can understand that whatever's happening that is bringing this to the surface, the fight in me, if I can stop and I can look at, wait a second, why do I believe like I do? Where did this belief system come from that makes me different than you? And why am I okay with the way that you're treating a specific demographic of people, but I'm not okay with something else? Okay, well, so is this creating the opportunity for each one of us to really look at ourselves? Really start thinking about, wait a minute, what why do I feel like this? Is this a chance or an opportunity for us to break down these old belief systems that are keeping us confined and structured in one specific way? Okay, well, that's up to each individual. But for me, I like the idea of being able to say, okay, I understand your point of view and I understand your point of view, but I'm going to do me. I'm going to stand in my love and I'm going to sit on the outside and I'm going to watch all of you guys figure it out until you figure it out. Because at some point, we are all humans and we're all the same and we're all connected. When are you guys going to figure this out? When are you going to figure out that somebody that has more money is not more powerful than me? I can stand in my love and I can stand in my truth. So, what I'm seeing is the caste system and how the caste system is breaking down. And you understand, there's a specific idea of what makes a person more powerful,
Mm.
yeah, more acceptable than others. So somebody, our belief system all around the world, the more money that I have, the more power that I have over other people, the more significant that I am, and you're up here. The person that is the common laborer, that's had a very simple life, that is just living their life, is down here. When in reality, you can't have one without the other. And the reality, you are not better than me because you're the CEO of a company. And you're not less than me because you're in the fields picking up strawberries. We are all part of the whole scheme of thing and we're all equal and we cannot do this without one another. So therefore, is the system breaking down? Do I recognize that we're going to become more in balance, that we're all humans, that we're all souls, that we're all the purest form of love, and that we can live in the simplicity of understanding how to love one another instead of hating one another. How we can work in this idea and this way of bringing back wholeness and completeness to the earth so that we can all reside as one instead of having different factions. Now, that's a very complicated answer, I think, and to very, again, that's just the way that I see it. I think that
Mm.
everything that's happening is opening up the door and giving us the opportunity to become one and become wholeness. But again, instead of looking at this person as being wrong or this person being right, or this is how they need to do it or this how it is, I need to start with myself. Wait a second. Let's go back inward and be selfish. And let's look at, what do I need? What is my role in this particular life? What is the connection that I have with my soul? And what am I supposed to be learning from this? And what am I supposed to be letting go of from this? Start there, and then everything is going to start unfolding exactly as it's meant to. If I can find the love within me, then somebody else is going to find the love within them. And that's what's shifting the construct.
Mm.
Again, going back to the very beginning of this
Mm.
conversation, of selfishness and finding the love that's within me. When I love myself, I love you. And that's what's being presented to us, in my
That's
opinion.
in my opinion. That is stunning, Lisa. Oh my God. Thank you. That I nearly think we have to end there. That is the most beautiful, beautiful message. Is there something else, the guides, or you would like to share with the listeners and me that we can sort of marinate in and use for our this lovely journey that we're on?
Yeah. So what we want you all to, yeah, I'm from the South. You say y'all.
No, I love it.
Say,
Love it.
what we want you all, two separate words, you all to understand is that you are love. You are the highest vibrational frequency that exists. You are the oneness and the completeness of all things. When you can simply look at yourself and recognize that the energetic body that lies within you is connected to all things, you'll begin to recognize how magnificent each one of you is. You are all connected as one. Allow your soul to speak the truth to you and listen carefully. We want you to see that the soul is the guidance that is meant for you. And as the human construct can begin to dissolve, you'll recognize that the oneness and the wholeness and the completeness of your soul will come forward and allow the guidance that will create the happiness and joy that all desire.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm not going to add any other words to that. Thank you to the guides, thank you to the Akashic Records, and to you. For those who may want to connect with you, find out more about your work, um, what should they do? And I'll put all the links in the description
Yeah.
box of the interview.
Well, if and I do provide private sessions, and
Okay.
I have a ton of information on my website, and you can book a session or get additional information at lisawetzel.com. And then my YouTube channel is I do provide podcasts, and the people that I interview, it's a little bit of a variety, but the focus of the podcast is helping and assisting you, giving you resources to let go of these old belief systems and help to transform into your higher awakening or your higher being. Um, so that is YouTube at Lisa Wetzel, Akashic Records Consultant.
Thank you so much, Lisa. We need all the help I think we can get. And that's been such thank you. And thank you to the guides and the Akashic Records. And I hope, listeners, you'll go away seeing the potential that is available to all of us and what we can connect in with when we can sort of start to work to un unlock all this prison of our mind. And yeah, thank you so much. And until the next time, take care. Thank you, Lisa. And
Thank you.
thank you so much.